Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Pink Portal Podcast. I am Adam and this is Clay.
This is not Clay.
Oh really? Who is this?
This is Yalk, his evil twin.
Oh,
I've kidnapped him. He is down in the basement with you right now.
except I don't have a basement.
Do-do-do-do-do.
Seriously though. This week we are going to be talking about Clay's creation, The-Vengers. The "the" is supposed to be like a "the," and it's kind of a spoof of the Avengers.
No way, really?
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
mean
know that.
that was my interpretation. Yeah.
You're quite a smarty there. You used your noggin to figure that out.
Oh yeah, big brain.
Job.
Thank you very much. And without further ado, I think we owe the fans an explanation here. Um, how would you explain to our fans how Devengers came to be?
Well, I'd say this was really just passion project of mine, as you can say. It was years ago. Oh, I'd say like 2014 when we made this up, but I can't take all the credit. This was me and my cousin, Nicholas, who created these. And, it's just your average, everyone as a kid wants to be a superhero. Superheroes are the coolest thing. It's like you're always making up these superheroes, but it's like, yeah, so we just started making these comics, and I mean, like, they were just fun and goofy, and so yeah, I'd say Avengers was just I look back on them now, and you you read those old comics and they're very incoherent and don't have any story to them whatsoever, but it was just fun things that we did together, and that's really how I'd explain it. It's just something fun. It was something fun to do, and didn't really care what anyone else thought about it.
Now here we are, caring what other people think about it.
Yeah. Where did I go wrong? Probably when I said we should make a podcast.
Probably, but that's what I think is cool about them is that they're just kind of these generic superheroes, but you care about them and you put a lot of energy into them. And you say they're incoherent. I mean, I don't think so. I think they have some pretty clear plot lines going. It's just that the genre is so simplistic. And I mean, hey, comics in general tend to be incoherent. I mean, just look at Marvel and DC lore. You know?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's what I'd explain them. They're just fun, silly superheroes.
Yeah, and that captures them pretty well. Could you describe each member of the team? Maybe introduce them to us.
Well, there's a lot of characters in Avengers. I mean, I think one of the things that I wish we could go back and change was instead of just starting with this big group of characters, I wish we could have introduced them one at a time more to give them more personality, but instead we kind of just started with a big group of characters and added on to that. So I wouldn't say they all have as much personality. I mean, they could have more personality, but I'd say probably the most important, or the one that um, most of the storylines revolve around, is Power Man, aka John, and he's kind of it's like, I'm gonna make he's like your Peter Griffin or your Homer Simpson of the of the show. He's It's like most episodes are going to revolve around him.
Holy crap, Lois! It's Power Man from The Vengers.
Crap! Holy crap, Lois! It's Power Man from the half and half original series The-Vengers.
Not to be confused with the existing superhero, Power Man.
Yeah. That was actually something we um I'd say the hardest thing with writing with superheroes is trying to come up with a name that hasn't been taken already.
Oh yeah.
And then also just like trying to have them say that name without it sounding as corny as possible, and eventually you just have to deal with the corniness of that. But but Power Man he's like I said, he's like your Homer Simpson. Most episodes revolve around him, and he's the leader of the Avengers. He's like your Mr. Incredible generic super strength guy. And he works works at a lab, Johnsville Labs.
Of course.
He's got because he's got to be a scientist too. How else do you think? How else would you explain his superpowers? But he's your he's the main. I'd say he's the main character. And then he's got his wife, Carol, aka Grogal, aka the Wasp from Marvel Comics. But yeah, she's your generic growth changing superhero. She can shrink and grow. Um, Most of the time she grows because that's more useful than shrinking, but I mean she can do it if she wants.
No, so it's kind
And
of like I thought she could only grow, but kind of like an Ant-Man, Giant Man situation where she goes both
yeah,
ways.
yeah,
Cool.
she shrinks so little that you wouldn't know she can shrink, but she can. And then they have a daughter, which is Jenny, and she's kind of your amalgamation of every superpower in one sort of thing. She's probably the most strongest of the Avengers. Don't let her size fool you.
I love her design. How she's just constantly in that swaddle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's always stuck in that little blanket. She's just a little ball of fluff there. But those are probably the three I'd say that get the most screen time, but there's side characters like Bear Man, who is the robot teddy bear AI, and then there's Power Man's sidekick, Power Girl, who has an actual origin story, which is revealed in the comics, unlike, all the other characters. And last one I can really think of off the top of my head is Infinity Man. He has the power to transform into anything, and those are probably the most relevant of the characters, but there's tons of other ones. I think we wrote most of these back in 2014, and back in 2014, I actually was a big fan of The Simpsons, and I think me and Nicholas were big fans of The Simpsons, and I think that influenced how we wrote these a lot, because we always were focusing on adding wacky side characters, and sometimes some of the episodes don't even focus on actual superhero things. But if you look at it from that standpoint, you can see where that Simpsons inspiration came in a lot.
I love all the little snapshots we get of Power Man, Grogal, and Jenny's domestic life.
Hmm.
and all the little adventures Jenny finds herself on, like Jack from The Incredibles, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty much what she is. Can't come up with anything original anymore, can you?
No, I mean, I say it's kind of a common trope. I mean, look at Franklin Richards from the Fantastic Four.
What a guy.
So, truly Sigma energy right there. Yeah, I got to be really honest here. Power Man seems kind of underqualified to be a leader. I mean, gosh, you're talking about like Infinity Man there can transform into anything. I mean, like that sounds like awesome.
Well, if you want some behind the scenes lore here, he actually was going to be the main character of the series, but he got overshadowed by John and Carol's romance in season 1, and then we didn't really know what to do with him until like season 4, where he has that one-off adventure where he tries to fall in love.
Oh yeah. Well, I certainly hope these side characters get more development. Uh, the pit I think you've fallen into here is sort of like what happened with the DC extended universe. I think is what they're calling it, where they just kind of did Man of Steel and then Batman versus Superman and then bam, Justice League. And so the payoff didn't really, we didn't care about these characters versus the MCU, where we slowly kind of got introduced to each of the characters, and then the Avengers, when it came out in 2012, felt like just this huge event, and we cared about every character. But I think you still have plenty of room to develop these characters as you go, and like I said, I certainly hope we see more from them.
Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing I've been focusing on these past few years. I'd say if we're gonna get into the canon here, because you've cornered me into this corner already. I wouldn't say that if we're thinking about this new canon that we've created here, this whole universe, I wouldn't say those original comics are canon at all. But don't like freak. It's kind of like, how, like you were saying in the the movie adaptations draw inspiration from the comics.
Yeah.
So in this new canon or whatever, these characters, I'm trying to rewrite the characters as more believable instead of just wacky things going on. Like right now in the phase where I'm at, they haven't even become the Avengers yet. They're still in like their origin phase, which is something that we never showed in the comics, but like events that will happen in the future with the actual Avenger characters will be like, there will be events based off things that happened in the comics. But it's not like those comics actually happened in this new universe at all. It's just there will be events that take inspiration from those. So that will give us a chance to like fix and actually evolve these previously created characters.
I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's kind of like what Marvel did with Ultimate Comics like 20 years ago or so. Just kind of make a whole new canon, definitely kind of take the major play-by-play of the originals, but make it more coherent. And yeah, I see what you're doing there. And hey, more power to you. But another question here. Who is the most powerful of the Avengers?
Ooh, that's a toughie. I, honestly, I'd say the most powerful character in just the Avengers series in whole, like not even a member of the Avengers, is probably the off-clock duck.
Of course. Obvious answer.
Yeah, he's a pretty powerful being. Probably the second strongest being in the entire J&M HCU, honestly, right underneath Brother.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, on that actually, why don't you elaborate? Who is the off clock duck? You know, where did he come from? Where's he going? Off clock.
He was just a joke character, honestly. He's supposed to be a British version of the Aflac duck, but instead of saying Aflac, he says off clock, which is Organization for Carrying Lots of Criminals. And he's in charge of locking up all the baddies that the Vengers defeat. So you know, that much power, he's obviously the most strongest.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, hey, you know, he's basically the armored transport company of the little Vengers corner of the world. Good for him.
What a guy.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, hey, brings to mind kind of a Howard the Duck tier position of power.
Yeah.
But on that, actually, what would you say is the most powerful threat the Avengers have ever faced? Old continuity, new continuity, whatever.
I'd say specifically one of I think if I'm looking at the entire Avengers series as a whole, I'd say my favorite season out of all of them would probably be season 3. And that's because we had that season-long story arc of Dr. Lochter trying to get these mystical gems of power. And if you don't,
Infinity Stones.
pretty the non-copyrighted Infinity Stones, but I'd say, and that's actually what I'm working him up to be in this new continuity, is the big bad, the guy who's pulling the strings from behind the scenes. So I'd probably say he's the real big bad of Avengers.
Dr. Lochter, why don't you one more here. Why don't you elaborate for the fans? Who is Dr. Lochter?
Oh my god. So I'm talking a long time ago, before the Vengers even existed, I made a goofy story that I actually was trying to get published. It never got published, obviously. I don't know why, but it was called Super Guy. And I always just love the idea of superheroes just being called Guy or something like so simple like that. Because it's like you build up your entire, like, you're supposed to be this big, it's like it's always Superman or like something really strong, but it's like, why not just call him Guy? It just makes it so much goofier or whatever. But I'm getting off track here. Anyways, the villain for that was Dr. Lochter, which was just this generic bad guy. But I don't know what it was about him, but after I finished that, I just kept using him as like as like the generic villain of all these other stories. And it got to the point where I'm like, what? Maybe he's this big bad that's, pulling the strings from behind everything. So originally when I wrote all those stories, they weren't intended to be all connected together. But like in this new continuity, they all are sharing the same universe. And I'm like, maybe the reason all this bad stuff is happening is because he's behind the scenes pulling it for some reason. The reason is he's trying to get his long lost love back. So that's his.
Oh,
This is yeah. That's
I'm
his reason.
getting Kingpin and into the Spider-Verse vibes there.
Yeah. Actually, I wrote that. See, I made that before Spider-Verse. So
Yeah.
Spider-Verse. I'm pressing charges.
See, here I was thinking he was just like a Lex Luthor, Dr. Savannah, Doc Ock kind of guy who's just like out for world domination because he feels wronged or inadequate in some way. But Lost Wife,
I mean,
that's a...
there is some maniacal intent too.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course.
he's trying to get her back, but I mean, he's also not the most sane guy to begin with.
Oh yeah, I mean every superhero should have a little Napoleon to face off against. I mean, I'd argue that Jessica from Jess and Morty herself would be one, if not for her sheer laziness and about world domination or such lofty goals.
I mean, Jessica's antics have not gone unnoticed by Vengers, but they don't see her as that big of a threat to do anything about it.
Yeah, she just vibes.
She's just vibing over there. That's why they have the West Coast Avengers over there to keep an eye on her.
But hey, I mean that's a story for another day, right?
Right.
Don't want to get ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, we'll get into that soon enough.
Yeah. And so I guess that covers Ventures. Any parting thoughts?
Any parting thoughts? I'm sorry you guys had to listen to this.
Hey, we tried.
We tried.
Oh, you know, I swear you're doing that right there. You know, Clay here actually, he wrote a theme song for the
No, God,
Vengers.
please don't make
No,
me
yeah,
sing
but
it.
he's stipulated that I would have to do the beat in the background, which is literally just the tune
All right,
of
listen.
American Idiot, and I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. I was like, are you really going to pull this on me? He told me before we were recording that he wasn't going to make me sing the song. And I'm like, is he going to pull this and make me sing the song? Curse you.
Oh, are you actually gonna do it?
No.
Do they have like some battle cry we can close out on, or?
Watch Clay's question corner. That's their
Good
battle
enough.
cry canonically. Tune in next week when we'll talk about the posse.
Hey.
Yay! Grace and Holly.
What a guy.
What a guy. All right. This is Captain Kirk signing off. Live long and prosper.
Do, 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 do.
Oof.